Marcus Stone stood frozen in his million-dollar driveway, his expensive black car still running behind him. His mouth fell open as he stared at the most shocking sight he had ever seen in his entire life. There, in the middle of his perfectly manicured front lawn, were his two precious 5-year-old twins, Emma and Ethan, completely naked and being scrubbed down with soapy water by Rosa, their trusted maid of 3 years. The children were giggling and splashing in what looked like a makeshift outdoor bathing area. Rosa was on her knees, gently washing Emma's hair while Ethan played with soap bubbles that floated around them like tiny rainbows in the afternoon sun. But this wasn't the strangest part. The strangest part was that there were garden hoses, buckets, and towels scattered everywhere, as if this had been planned for hours. Marcus felt his heart pounding so hard he thought it might explode. His hands shook as he gripped his leather briefcase tighter. He had come home early from his business trip to surprise his family, but instead, he was the one getting the biggest surprise of his life. What was happening to his children? Why were they being bathed outside like animals? He took one step forward, then stopped. Should he run to them? Should he call the police? His mind was spinning with 1,000 terrible thoughts, and then Rosa looked up and saw him standing there. Her face went completely white, like she had seen a ghost. 3 days earlier, Marcus Stone was not just any billionaire. He was the kind of man who owned 3 private jets, had houses in 12 different countries, and could buy a small island if he felt like it on a Tuesday morning. But despite all his money and power, there was only one thing in the world that truly mattered to him: his twins, Emma and Ethan. Ever since his wife Sarah had died in a car accident 2 years ago, Marcus had devoted his entire life to making sure his children were safe, happy, and loved. He hired the best nannies money could buy, sent them to the most expensive private school, and made sure they had everything their little hearts could desire. Rosa Martinez had been their maid and part-time nanny for 3 years. She was a kind, gentle woman from Mexico who spoke softly to the children and always kept the house spotless. Marcus trusted her completely. She had been with them even before Sarah died, and the children adored her. She was like family. That Monday morning, Marcus had kissed his twins goodbye before leaving for what was supposed to be a week-long business trip to Tokyo. Emma had wrapped her tiny arms around his neck and whispered, "Daddy, promise you'll bring us back something special." Ethan, always the more serious of the two, had looked at him with those big brown eyes and said, "Be safe, Daddy. We need you." Marcus's heart had melted, just like it did every single time his children showed him love. "I promise I'll be back before you know it," he had told them, ruffling Ethan's messy hair and giving Emma one more squeeze. As his private jet took off from the airport, Marcus had no idea that his entire world was about to change forever. The first sign that something was wrong came on Tuesday evening. Marcus was sitting in his luxury hotel room in Tokyo, video calling his children like he did every night when he traveled. But this time, something was different. Emma's usually bright smile seemed forced, and she kept looking away from the camera. Ethan, who normally chattered non-stop about his day at school, was unusually quiet. Even more strange, both children looked tired, really tired. "Are you feeling okay, my loves?" Marcus asked, leaning closer to his laptop screen. "We're fine, Daddy," Emma said quickly, but her voice sounded small and worried. Rosa appeared behind them, and Marcus noticed something he had never seen before: dark circles under her eyes, like she hadn't slept in days. "Rosa, is everything all right there?" Marcus asked. "Oh yes, Mr. Stone," Rosa replied with her usual warm smile. But Marcus could have sworn he heard something strange in her voice. "Everything is perfectly fine. The children are just a little tired from playing outside all day." After they hung up, Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong, but he told himself he was just being a worried father. Rosa had never given him any reason not to trust her. Wednesday's call was even worse. This time, Emma was scratching her arms constantly, and Ethan kept rubbing his eyes. They both looked uncomfortable and restless. "Daddy," Emma said suddenly, "when are you coming home?" "I told you, sweetheart, I'll be back on Friday," Marcus replied, but his worry was growing stronger by the minute. "Can you come home earlier?" Ethan asked. "Please?" Marcus felt his heart clench. His children never begged him to come home early. They were usually so independent and brave. Something was definitely wrong. "Are you sure you're both feeling okay?" he asked again. Before either child could answer, Rosa quickly moved into the camera view. "They're just missing you, Mr. Stone. she said with that same strange smile. You know how children get when their papa is away. But Marcus noticed something that made his blood run cold. Rosa's hands were shaking. That night, Marcus couldn't sleep. He tossed and turned in his expensive hotel bed, his mind racing with worry. Finally, at 3 a.m. Tokyo time, he made a decision that would change everything. He was going home early. Marcus called his pilot and told him to prepare the jet immediately. He canceled all his remaining meetings, packed his bags, and was in the air within 2 hours. The entire flight home, he couldn't stop thinking about his children's faces on that video call. The tiredness, the scratching, the way Rosa's hands had been shaking. What if something terrible was happening to his babies while he was thousands of miles away? The flight felt like the longest 8 hours of Marcus's life. He tried to call Rosa several times, but she didn't answer. He tried the house phone, but no one picked up. By the time the plane landed at his private airport, Marcus was nearly sick with worry. He didn't even wait for his usual driver. He jumped into his car and drove home as fast as he could, breaking every speed limit along the way. His hands were sweating on the steering wheel, and his heart was beating so fast he thought he might have a heart attack. All he could think about was getting to his children and making sure they were safe. Marcus pulled into his circular driveway and jumped out of the car, leaving it running. He was about to run straight to the front door when he heard something that made him stop in his tracks. Children's laughter. But it was coming from the wrong direction. It wasn't coming from inside the house. It was coming from the front lawn. Marcus slowly turned around, and that's when he saw the most shocking sight of his entire life. His precious twins naked and being bathed outside by Rosa like they were stray dogs. The soap, the hoses, the buckets, it looked like some kind of emergency decontamination. Emma's beautiful long hair was dripping with suds, and Ethan was shivering even though he was trying to smile. Both children had strange red marks all over their skin. Rosa looked up and saw him standing there, and her face went completely white with terror. "Mr. Stone," she gasped, dropping the sponge she was holding. You're home early." Marcus felt the world spinning around him. His children were being treated like diseased animals in his own front yard. The red marks on their skin, the outdoor bathing, Rosa's terrified expression. What kind of horrible thing was happening to his family? "Daddy!" Emma cried out. But instead of running to him like she always did, she stayed exactly where she was, water dripping from her small body. Ethan looked at him with those big brown eyes, but now they were filled with something Marcus had never seen before: shame. "What?" Marcus's voice came out as barely a whisper. "What is happening here?" Rosa stood up slowly, her wet hands shaking as she reached for a towel to wrap around Emma. Tears were streaming down her face, and Marcus could see pure terror in her eyes. "Mr. Stone, please let me explain," she whispered, her voice breaking. "It's not what you think. I would never hurt them. Never." But Marcus wasn't listening to her words. All he could see were the angry red bumps covering his children's skin from head to toe. They looked like tiny bites or rashes, and they were everywhere. On their arms, their legs, their little faces. Emma was trying not to scratch them, but Marcus could see her fingers twitching with the need to itch. Are those bug bites?" Marcus asked, his voice getting louder and more panicked. "Rosa, what happened to my children?" Before Rosa could answer, Ethan spoke up in his small, brave voice. "Daddy, don't be mad at Rosa. She's been trying to help us." "Help you with what?" Marcus demanded, taking a step closer. "Why are you both covered in bites? Why are you being bathed outside like... He couldn't even finish the sentence. His worst nightmare was coming true right in front of his eyes. "It started on Monday night," Rosa said quickly, wrapping a towel around Ethan as well. "After you left for your trip. Emma woke up crying and scratching. I thought maybe it was just dry skin, so I put some lotion on her. But by Tuesday morning, Ethan had them too." Marcus felt his knees go weak. "Had what? What are you talking about?" Rosa took a deep breath, and when she spoke, her voice was filled with shame and fear. "Head lice, Mr. Stone, and not just head lice. They also got body lice somehow, the worst case I've ever seen." The words hit Marcus like a punch to the stomach. "Lice!" he shouted so loud that both children jumped. "My children have lice? How is that even possible?" Emma started crying, big tears rolling down her soapy cheeks. "Daddy, we're sorry. We didn't mean to get the bugs." Marcus's anger melted instantly when he saw his daughter's tears, but his panic was still growing. "Rosa, why didn't you call me? Why didn't you take them to a doctor?" "I tried," Rosa cried out, her own tears falling faster now. I called 3 pediatricians on Tuesday, but none of them could see the children until next week. I called the emergency room, but they said unless it was life-threatening, I should try over-the-counter treatments first. Marcus stared at her in shock. So you decided to bathe them outside like animals? No, no, no. Rosa shook her head frantically. Mr. Stone, you don't understand. By Tuesday night, the lice had spread everywhere, not just in their hair, but all over their bodies. They were crawling in their clothes, in their beds, in their toys. The children couldn't sleep. They were scratching until they bled. She pointed to the house with a shaking finger. I had to wash every single piece of fabric in the house with special chemicals. The beds, the curtains, the carpets, everything. The whole house smells like pesticide. I couldn't let the children back inside until everything was clean and safe. Marcus felt the world spinning around him again. You mean, the house is contaminated? I've been working for 3 days straight, Rosa continued, her words tumbling out faster now. Washing, scrubbing, vacuuming, spraying. I took the children to the pharmacy, and the pharmacist said this was the worst case she'd ever seen. She gave me special shampoo and soap, but it has to be done outside because the chemicals are too strong for indoor use. Suddenly, everything started making sense to Marcus. The tiredness in his children's eyes during the video calls, Rosa's shaking hands, the way they looked uncomfortable and kept scratching. They hadn't been in danger from Rosa. Rosa had been trying to save them. Daddy, Ethan said quietly, Rosa has been sleeping in the garage so she could take care of us. She's been washing our hair with the special soap 4 times a day, just like the medicine lady told her to. Emma nodded, wiping her nose with the back of her hand. She made us a fun camping area in the backyard with blankets and pillows. She told us we were having an adventure while she cleaned the house. Marcus felt a wave of shame wash over him. Rosa hadn't been hurting his children. She had been protecting them. While he was living in luxury in Tokyo, this wonderful woman had been fighting a battle against an army of bugs, working day and night to save his babies. Rosa, Marcus said softly, I'm so sorry. I didn't understand. But before Rosa could respond, something terrible happened. Emma suddenly started scratching her head so violently that she began to cry. It itches so bad, Daddy, she sobbed. Make it stop. Marcus ran to her and knelt down, pulling her into his arms. As he held her close, he could actually see tiny black specks moving in her wet hair. His stomach turned, but he forced himself to stay calm for his daughter. It's okay, baby, he whispered, even though his heart was breaking. Daddy's here now. We're going to fix this. But as he held Emma, Marcus noticed something that made his blood run cold. The black specks weren't just in Emma's hair. They were starting to crawl onto his expensive white shirt. Mr. Stone, Rosa called out in panic. Please step back. You'll get them too. But it was too late. Marcus could feel the tiny insects crawling on his skin, and the itching started immediately. In just 30 seconds of holding his daughter, he was already infected. Oh no, oh no, oh no, Marcus muttered, setting Emma down gently and looking at his arms. Sure enough, tiny black dots were moving across his skin. Rosa looked horrified. I'm so sorry, Mr. Stone. This is why I've been keeping them outside. The lice jump from person to person so easily. I've been wearing special clothes and washing myself with the chemical soap every few hours. Marcus stared at his arms, watching more lice appear on his skin by the second. The itching was getting worse, spreading up his arms and across his chest. Now he understood why his children had looked so miserable on the video calls. How many lice are we talking about? He asked, afraid to hear the answer. Rosa's face went pale. The pharmacist estimated maybe thousands per child. Thousands? Marcus felt dizzy. How is that even possible? We think they got them at school, Rosa explained. There was an outbreak in Emma's class, but the school didn't tell parents until it was too late. By then the lice had spread to Ethan too, and they just multiplied so fast. Marcus looked at his children, both wrapped in towels and covered in red bite marks, and felt a rage unlike anything he had ever experienced. Not at Rosa, at the school that had let this happen to his babies. Which school administrator knew about this outbreak? He asked, his voice dangerously quiet. Mr. Stone, Rosa said nervously, maybe we should focus on getting everyone clean first. But Marcus was already pulling out his phone, lice crawling on his hands as he typed. I'm calling my lawyer. That school is going to pay for what they did to my children. Daddy, Emma said in a small voice, are you mad at us? Marcus immediately put his phone away and knelt down again, careful not to touch his children but looking them straight in the eyes. I am not mad at you, sweetheart. I am mad at the grown-ups who should have protected you better. This is not your fault. Are we going to be okay? Ethan asked, his bottom lip trembling. Marcus felt his heart break into a million pieces. His brave little boy was scared, and Marcus had been thousands of miles away when his children needed him most. Yes, Marcus said firmly. We're going to be more than okay. Daddy's going to make sure of it. He stood up and looked at Rosa, who was still crying silently. Rosa, you are the most amazing person I have ever met. While I was away living in luxury, you were here fighting a war for my children. How can I ever thank you? Rosa smiled through her tears. You don't need to thank me, Mr. Stone. I love these children like they're my own. Well then, Marcus said, rolling up his sleeves despite the lice crawling on his arms. Let's finish this war together. What do we need to do next? Rosa looked surprised. You want to help? But you'll get even more lice. Marcus laughed, and it was the first real laugh he'd had in days. Rosa, I'm already covered in lice. What's a few thousand more? For the next 4 hours, Marcus Stone, billionaire, owner of 3 private jets and one of the most powerful men in the world, knelt in his front yard helping Rosa bathe his children with chemical soap. His expensive suit was ruined, his hands were raw from the harsh chemicals, and lice were crawling all over his body. And he had never been happier in his entire life. Because his children were safe, Rosa was the hero she had always been, and his family was together again. As the sun began to set, Emma looked up at her father with soap bubbles in her hair and said, Daddy, this has been the best adventure ever. Marcus smiled, scratching a lice bite on his arm. You know what, sweetheart? I think you're absolutely right. But their adventure wasn't over yet. The house still needed to be decontaminated, the school still needed to face justice, and Marcus had a feeling this experience was going to change his family's life in ways he never could have imagined. As he helped Rosa rinse the soap from Ethan's hair, Marcus made himself a promise. He would never again put business before his children, and he would never take Rosa's devotion for granted. The billionaire had come home to find his twins being bathed outside by the maid, and he had discovered something more valuable than all his money combined, the true meaning of family, sacrifice, and love. If you enjoy this story, please like, share, and subscribe for more.